Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Bernie ISD trustee and owner of the Bernie Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Bernie City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros. Ready, aim, ceasefire.
Good morning. Welcome to Ceasefire, brought to you by the Bernie Bookshop. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And today we don't have a guest, but we do have a fascinating topic. It's all about conspiracy theories and the government. And nobody told me to do this show today.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I promise. No,
I think there's some sort of secretive cabal behind this.
No, nobody's directing my thoughts right now. I promise everybody.
I bet. Now, my checking account's going to say differently, but I bet we were paid to do this show.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And let's talk about conspiracy theories, because it's probably been going on since before JFK, but that's probably the one that most of us remember. You know, who shot JFK? Was it just Lee Harvey Oswald, or was there a government conspiracy? Was LBJ involved? Was the CIA involved? But before we jump into the national stuff, you know, we had a very severe tragedy, a natural disaster that happened on July 4th, and that started off some localized conspiracy theory, unfortunately. And I'm going to read a couple of them for you that I grabbed off of Facebook. This particular Facebook page is the Q News Patriot. And this poster wrote, "They want the land, so now Kerrville's underwater. Kerrville approves a $175 million gas power plant. Months later, ? Biblical floods swallow the town. This isn't weather, it's war by water. Greenlight the project, drown the locals, build over the wreckage. Same playbook as Maui, same playbook as Asheville. Now it's Texas. They don't need to buy you out. They wash you out, then break ground."
The first thing that comes to my mind when somebody thinks along those lines is you have a lot more confidence in the capabilities of people than I can even imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine somebody thinking that anybody in the world could cause that kind of deluge. It's just not scientifically possible.
Right.
And
well, we're going to talk about that
yes.
in a second. That'll be my next one. But they do think that it's scientifically possible. But
yeah,
I want to give everybody some clues to know when they're getting a rash of junk. And usually the first indicators when they say they, and I hate that term, they. Well, they say it's going to rain tomorrow, or they did this, or who is they? And I can tell you who they is. In this particular case, they is KPUB, or Kerrville Public Utility Board, which is an arm of the city of Kerrville. So let's ask them some questions. And I would encourage everybody to do this, because you start with one question, that'll generally lead you to another question, which will lead you to another question. So here's my first question is, why would the city of Kerrville go through the trouble of killing over 100 people, maybe more than that, maybe 200, when they recover all of the missing people? Why would they go through all of that trouble to build a gas plant, right? But where is that gas plant going to be anyway? Is it going to be in Kerr County?
On the Guadalupe.
On the Guadalupe, yeah. Right?
It must be.
No, actually, it's going to be located south of Columbus, Texas, which is in Colorado County, right? Which didn't get affected by flooding. So why would the city of Kerrville kill that many people for a gas plant that's going to generate electricity for the city of Kerrville? Why would they do it in Kerrville? Why wouldn't they just kill people in Columbus, Texas?
Yeah. So one little question just destroys the entire concept, and yet a lot of people haven't asked that question.
No.
They don't ask those questions.
No.
And that's where a lot of these things end up going viral, is because nobody's asking basic questions or investigating anything.
Yes.
They're just taking a concept and running with it because it's exciting.
Yeah. It took me all of about 5 seconds. I typed in Kerrville gas plant, and I got a news article. Actually, there are many news articles. They've been talking about this.
Oh, it's a secret, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your electric bill.
Yeah.
Which is through the Kerrville Power Plant Company, who is... I can't say it.
But yeah, so they've been talking about this for a long time. This goes all the way back to when we had those freezes, and my brother was dying from COVID. which we're going to get into in a bit. My son was back at home with no electricity because of the whole grid falling apart. And the city of Kerrville said, we're not going to let that happen again. We're going to create an abundant source of electricity so this doesn't happen. They determined that the best place to put a gas-powered plant was not in Kerr County, where there's only one gas line running through. They went into Colorado County, where they could have access to 5 different lines. All of this information is available online. It's cloud seeding. Let's get into that one. Because that is how, apparently, the city of Kerrville, they had airplanes go in the air and drop the cloud seeds, right, and created this rain in Colorado County.
Now, cloud seeding actually does happen. People do it over farmland. That can, in certain places, add up to an inch of rain over a year. So
a whopping inch.
In some places, at the outside. It is something that is done, very local type of meteorological impact, but it is done. But I don't think people understand the level of difference between something like this, an event like this, and what cloud seeding really does.
Yeah. I'm going to share 2 posts with you. One is from a cousin of mine who will remain unnamed, but he doesn't live anywhere near the hill country. He's been in the Houston area his whole life.
I know who you're talking about.
He wrote, concerning the flooding in the hill country, how many of you have heard of cloud seeding? We used to only get an inch or 2 of rain at the most in one day. This is a guy who's never lived in the hill country saying this or writing this. Now we get up to 6 inches in one night. Something to think about. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, let me go to meteorologist Steve Brown and see what he had to say, because he has been posting on Facebook. Because he wrote, so many falsely blaming cloud seeding for the flood. Cloud seeding had zero to do with it. The science behind cloud seeding has never produced anything more than agriculturally insignificant rain from a very few clouds ever. It's always been impotent. Ask why we have been in an exceptional drought for 5 years when money was being wasted the whole time on fruitless cloud seeding programs. Because it doesn't work. What makes rain is a moist atmosphere and low pressure aloft. That's what happens every single time we get flooded. Every time. Then there are the haters that blame budget cuts for the National Weather Service. Also untrue. Let's talk about this for a second, because another conspiracy theory are that elected officials, like I was at one time, are in the pockets of the developer. Right? So let's say that that's true. Let's say that while I was on city council for 8 years, I was in KB's pockets. Right? And let's just say that I'm pro-growth at all costs, and all I want to do is rape the hill country and put down homes.
You said it, I didn't.
All right. I said it, right? Okay. Well, what do I need? Well, I'm going to need lots of water to flush toilets and provide drinking water and water lawns. If I had the ability to produce rain and keep Canyon Lake full, why wouldn't I do it? If cloud seeding worked, right?
Yeah.
And why would I ever give my opponents the opportunity to point to Canyon Lake and say, well, look, it's dry. See, we can't build anymore. We don't have enough water. I would just shut them all up and say, let's cloud seed the heck out of the hill country and let this rain fall.
Yeah.
They don't do it because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It was Mother Nature that created that flood and nothing more.
Yeah. I do see some of these theories about the cloud seeding and all these other things is the balancing side of the climate warming people. Both sides seem to think we have an inordinate influence over the climate and over the weather and over whatever you want to talk about. And they don't seem to understand the limits of human capabilities or human impacts. And I would like to ask a lot of these people, have they educated themselves in 2 ways? One is critical thinking. And I've talked about these deck of cards that I like that have all the biases and fallacies and stuff, because there are so many of those in all of these conversations. And have they educated themselves on how physically the world works? The physics. Has anybody taken a class in thermodynamics? Now, I know a lot of people don't know what that is, but it's about the movement of heat through systems. And that's what weather is. It's moving heat around the globe. And it is very complicated, and it doesn't lead in the direction that people think it leads to. I feel a lot of these conspiracies come from a lack of knowledge and a lack of desire to educate themselves.
I agree. But I also want to add to that, I think there's another big source, and I think you're going to agree with me on this one. It's the elected officials themselves that create a lot of this.
Well, the tribalization, polarization, getting people fearful
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to come to the rescue and I will solve these problems that are so terrible that can be solved by me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mentioned a few earlier when we started the show, if you are on the outside wanting to be an elected official and you're absolutely convinced that the current elected officials have been lying to you, well, let's just say, I don't want to pick on him, but let's just say that you're Donald Trump, you're on the outside looking in, and you're convinced that there is an Epstein file. And I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know if there is or isn't. It's confusing to me now.
Yeah.
But you're convinced that there's one, and you are telling everybody that you want to vote for you that you are going to release that file.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get there, and your attorney general just a few months ago said, there is a file. It's on my desk. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm going to release it.
Yeah.
And then just a few weeks ago, no list.
Yeah. Never existed.
Yeah.
The credibility of politicians and experts, because we'll get to the whole COVID thing, has been undermined so much in recent history that people they don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
And since they're not willing to actually educate themselves on a lot of things, and we haven't really taught our people to critically think well enough, they just reach for anything that somebody comes out and yells at them.
Yeah. And now I think we need to take a break because we are in somebody's pockets. We just won't tell you who.
You'll find out in just a minute. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We'll be right back. Bernie has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Bernie Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Bernie Bookshop, and we pride ourselves on finding what you're looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Bernie Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Bernie at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Bernie Bookshop. Welcome back to Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We're talking about all the conspiracies and the ones that we are not involved in. And
Or so you think.
Or so you think. Yes, yes. This is a big one down at the end of the hallway here. Let's talk about where this comes from and how do you address this? How do you deal with somebody who's convinced of a conspiracy theory and has the, quote, air quotes here, science behind them? How do you have a conversation about that?
Oh, gosh, man, that's a big question. So first off, I want to say that there are some conspiracies out there that I'm uncertain of.
Yeah.
UFOs,
Likewise.
for example, right? Or the lone shooter theory behind JFK's assassination. I have a hard time reconciling all of the facts in that case. Yeah. And then you have something like COVID. And I think this is different because I don't think that there's a hidden agenda there. I think what happens is that there is a process where elected officials want to appease either the people that help them get into power or the voters, or in some cases, in both cases, it's both. But
they're afraid of saying, I don't know.
Right. I want to read a quote to you, and this one is actually from President Trump in his first term. And this was when COVID was coming on. Well, let me read this to you. We're here to discuss a monumental national achievement. From the instant the coronavirus invaded our shores, we raced into action to develop a safe and effective vaccine at breakneck speed. And I want to pause for a second. He said safe and effective. All right, I'm going to continue. It would normally take 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, or even more. In order to achieve this goal, we harnessed the full power of government, the genius of American scientists, and the might of American industry to save millions and millions of lives all over the world. We're just days away from authorization from the FDA, and we're pushing them hard, at which point we will immediately begin mass distribution. Before Operation Warp Speed, the typical time frame for development and approval, as you know, could be infinity. And we were very, very happy that we were able to get things done at a level that nobody has ever seen before. The gold standard vaccine has been done in less than 9 months. Now, this is a guy, and I'm not saying this to pick on him, so, everybody back off, right? I'm just saying he has been known to really just, he loves very, he uses that word a lot, and he exaggerates quite a bit.
Yes.
And I think in his heart of hearts, he really wanted to believe that this was going to work and that he had solved a major problem for his citizens.
He was told that,
Yes.
we think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course, none of what he wrote here really panned out the way we thought it would. A little bit later on, there's another guy that comes into power, President Biden, and this is from a CNN town hall, and he says, quote, if you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in the IC unit, and you're not going to die, end quote. That didn't work out well. And he goes on to say, you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. Well, I'm a testament to the fact that, yes, in fact, you do get COVID after the vaccination.
I think a lot of this comes from the first step is that political leaders want to instill fear in people because they want to come to the rescue. And then when the people are afraid and looking for a solution, they want to say, I have the solution. And I'm the answer to your prayers, and I can solve all these problems. Whereas neither one of those is really true. The fear has been ginned up excessively, and the solution is not what people think it is. It's not really a solution necessarily.
And then it's interesting to me to see the political divide, because some people, and I could almost hear it through the radio. It's like when I'm reading the Trump quote, they're like, well, they lied to him.
Well, when Trump was president, the Democrats were saying that the vaccine wouldn't work. I'll never take it.
That's
Biden
right.
said he'd never take it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Then he's in power, and he takes the vaccine, right? And then he tells you it's great.
Yeah.
So politics comes into play. Certainly Trump could not come up with a good vaccine.
Right.
And then after it didn't work very well, he's like, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah. Warp what?
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember that operation.
Yeah.
So government creates a lot of these problems. It creates a lot of these conspiracies. The need to, like you said, be behind it and say, hey, I helped you out.
Yeah.
And then, boy, they disappear really quick when it doesn't work out the way they said it should.
Yeah. And they end up losing credibility. Our scientists lose credibility when they go out on limbs and make claims about things that turned out, wasn't that true. And then the opposition brings those up and gins them up. And so the public basically is faced with nobody having credibility anymore, which is really unfortunate. And it's hard to determine how to evaluate somebody's credibility because we aren't taught enough about critical thinking to figure out, okay, what is this person saying, and are they accurate, and can I verify that somehow?
Yeah.
There's not enough of that going on within people's minds.
There was you got to tread lightly here. There was a certain local elected official who, prior to being elected, said that the city staff didn't care about the local citizen in Bernie. They got elected into office. They were there for a few months, and then one day they come by the Rotary Club and they showed up with city staff and said, man, city staff does a great job for the citizens of Bernie. And I'm not trying to pick on this individual, but what I'm trying to say is that I think that Donald Trump walked into office and Joe Biden walked into office. Now this one's questionable because I don't know how much he knew, but these, I think that what happens, a lot of people, like I said, they're on the outside and they're looking in and they're convinced that something is ill. And there might be something ill, right? And they want to go remedy it. And then they get there and they're like, it's either not ill or it's not as bad as they thought it was, or they had some bad information about what they thought was going on. Maybe Trump really did want to release the UFO files. And then he gets there and he's like, oh my gosh, we've got these secret weapons and I can't even hint about it because, we can't let the Russians find out about it. I have no idea, but they create that false hope in us that they're going to fix something and then they let us down. And recently, the Epstein file is the big one. Trump has lost some credibility. He's lost some credibility because that file didn't get released. He's lost some credibility because his administration is saying that Epstein did in fact kill himself. He's lost some credibility because he said, okay, well, we are going to send some weapons to Ukraine when he had promised you that he was going to end that war, what was it, in a day, And again, I'm not trying to pick on him. It's just that he kind of shot himself in the foot. Yeah. Biden shot himself in the foot. This elected official that I was talking about earlier shot himself in the foot.
Yeah. And I think that goes to we should all watch what we say. Yeah. When we make claims about whatever plants being built out in Kerrville, supposedly, if it's not true, you're ruining your own credibility.
Yeah.
And honestly, when people come to me with some conspiracy theory or some thought about how some star chamber person is controlling my life, I lose respect, because in my mind, I know there are star chambers, but that's a room that's in a certain shape. And there are people that think they want to control other people.
Right.
But I also know that there's nobody controlling me. I make my own decisions, and I think people need to realize that they're making their own decisions. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I just want people to think more critically and analyze what they're saying and have a better understanding. If they're talking about the weather, educate yourself about how weather actually works, the physics of it. You know, everybody's afraid of math and physics, but you know what? It's not that hard if you work at it. Educate yourself.
And I would add to that, before you post something on Facebook, before you open
Turn
your
off the
mouth,
computer.
well, actually turn on your computer and do some research. One, but two, are the words that you're about to say or type, are they helpful?
Good point. Yes.
A lot of people lost their lives. They lost loved ones in this flood.
Yeah.
They lost their homes. They lost quite a bit. If you engage in conspiracy theories about what happened in Kerrville and Ingram and Hunt, do those words help the current situation? Do they replenish the supplies that were lost by the volunteer firefighters?
Yeah.
Do they rebuild homes?
Yeah.
Do they rebuild lives?
Do they rebuild community? Yeah. We should always watch what we say, and what we say should build a better world.
Mm-hmm.
Not just try and expose some imagined truth. It should be seeking a truth.
Right. And that's
Not
going to
claiming a
require
truth.
a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. If you read something about cloud seeding, ask a question. Then ask another question.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing that, you're going to find that a lot of this stuff just doesn't add up.
Yeah. I think the questions is a great idea. I know I've mentioned this to you before, but there was a saying, and I think it was started with science way back 100 years ago, but somebody said about religion too. He said, I will follow a man to the end of the earth who is seeking God, and I will run like hell from a man who says he's found God. And I think it's the same with science, is that follow the people who are exploring and learning and trying to ask questions about how does this work?
Mm-hmm.
And then anybody that says, I know how it works, is wrong, because there's always another level to it. There's never an end to understanding, to learning. Never. No matter how detailed you get in anything, there's another layer that you need to learn. And so saying that you have the answer just points out that you're not thinking very deeply.
What is that quote about the fear of the Lord is the beginning of understanding? Not the finality of it, but the beginning.
Yes, right.
You know?
The starting of understanding.
Right.
You never get to the end of understanding.
Yeah. I want to understand how you got all that money, Dale. Have you got some book recommendations for us?
I sell lots of books. Okay, I've got 2 books this time, because depending on which way our audience wants to go. One is called Pseudoscience, which is an amusing history of crackpot ideas and why we love them. This is for those people who find it humorous and want to learn about those kooky ideas. The other book is for people that take the kooky ideas seriously. It's called Stuff They Don't Want You to Know by Ben Bolin. And it's about things that supposedly the government's trying to keep from us. And I think it's tongue-in-cheek. I haven't read it. But I think he might think he's serious too. So I don't know. But we got them at the Bernie Bookstore, and they're kind of fun to read.
That's a little disappointing. I figured you would have read every book in your bookstore.
Some I've read twice. Most I haven't read at all.
There's some good titles in there. You got a great bookstore.
Well, thank you. I tell you, one of the biggest joys I have is just going around and picking out new books. And I tell you, I come across new stuff all the time. And every once in a while, they don't ever sell, and I have to put them on clearance. I'm like, man, this was a great book, and nobody wanted to buy it.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just too many books out there. They're cool.
I don't know if you can answer this question, but how did the CIA determine to place you here in Bernie and operate a bookstore?
That was a long process, and it actually involved the Russians.
Okay.
Yeah. But, I can't go there because the Russians take vengeance on anybody that lets their secrets out, and I haven't gotten immunized from their latest poison. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening this week. And Dale and I probably going to have to cut this short because we got a meeting with some guys. Going to go fly an airplane over Bernie and
see some clouds.
Yeah, see some clouds. And distribute vaccines and do some other things, but appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And if you missed any of it, you can always go to our podcast at bernieradio.com, and we will see you again next week.